Hello and welcome to this edition of Northwest Newsweek. The name of the victim involved in a fatal train collision in Kenora on Wednesday morning has been released. The deceased has been identified as 18-year-old Tyrese Payash from Kenora. Officers from the OPP and the CP Rail Police reported to the Norman area around 5 a.m. Wednesday morning after a report of a person being hit by a train. EMS arrived shortly after and confirmed Payash to be deceased. The investigation is ongoing, and anyone who has information regarding the incident is asked to contact the Kenora OPP. City of Dryden is seeing the fallout after its city council failed to pass a motion to condemn Senator Lynn Beyak last week. Councillor Shane McKinnon brought forward the motion, calling on the Senate to go beyond the suspension and permanently remove Beyak from the Red Chamber. Now, some of the region's Indigenous leaders are calling on residents and event organizers to avoid doing business in Dryden. Adam Riley has the details.
For the last 3 years, Senator Lynn Beyak has been under scrutiny for posting letters which have been deemed racist to her Senate webpage, as well as her comments on the Truth and Reconciliation Commission and the Indian residential school system. During that time, both Grand Council Treaty No. 3 and Anishinaabe Aski Nation have called for Beyak's removal from the Red Chamber. During last week's council meeting, Shane McKinnon made an impassioned plea to his fellow councillors to support his motion.
It is our responsibility to demonstrate to our community, in particular our urban Aboriginal population, along with our Indigenous neighbours and the rest of the country, that we will not tolerate racism. Therefore, I'm asking council support for this resolution and to call for Senator Lynn Beyak to resign from her position as senator.
The motion only received one other vote of support from Councillor Dave McKay. Councillors Michelle Price and John Carlucci both voted no, and Councillors Norm Bush, Martin McKinnon, and Mayor Greg Wilson abstained, which under municipal guidelines are considered a no vote.
We really felt that it wasn't in our jurisdiction, and it wasn't our responsibility to debate and make a motion on something that is really a federal matter. So to me, it was an exercise in frustration.
Soon after the vote, Nan Grand Chief Alvin Fiddler posted to social media, calling on organizers to avoid Dryden as a host city for events like the Little Bands and Northern Bands hockey tournaments. And now another treaty group has released their own statement. It is with extreme disappointment that Grand Council Treaty No. 3 hears of the failure of a resolution to call for the censure of Senator Lynn Beyak that was presented to Dryden City Council. Fiddler says Indigenous communities and agencies have contributed millions of dollars over the years to the local economy and worked hard to partner with the city.
We're always trying to build safe spaces for our kids in places like Thunder Bay or Solicout or Dryden, and we need the leadership of these towns to also step up and demonstrate that they understand the issues and that they also have an opportunity to show their commitment.
Fiddler says talks are in the works between NAN and Treaty 3 to get the attention of Dryden's leadership and inform them of the consequences of what he calls their inaction. Adam Riley, TBT News.
A man convicted in a high-profile double murder in Fort Frances in the 1990s is back in custody following a major drug bust in Winnipeg. Jamie Perlette was just 19 years old when he was arrested for the murder of his parents. Carol and James Perlette were shot to death in March 1996 while they were asleep in their home on 3rd Street East. Jamie Perlette was charged and convicted on 2 counts of second-degree murder after a lengthy trial that made national headlines. He served close to 20 years behind bars in the Stony Mountain Penitentiary near Winnipeg and was released several years ago. On Wednesday, Winnipeg police announced that Perlette is one of 2 men arrested in a bust last month involving more than $2 million worth of meth, cocaine, and other drugs.
James Daniel Perlette, 43, has been charged with possession of a scheduled substance for the purpose of trafficking methamphetamine, as well as trafficking charges relating to cocaine and ecstasy, possession of proceeds of crime over $5,000, possession of body armor without a permit.
Perlette and the other suspect remain in custody pending their next court date. OPP and Rainy River have 1 person in custody following an incident involving a firearm. The incident took place Thursday morning at the Rainy River Health Center. There's no word how many shots were fired, but the OPP say nobody was injured. Officials with Riverside Healthcare, which operates the center in Rainy River, confirmed it happened in the parking lot of the facility and no staff were involved. As a result, additional security measures were implemented at all Riverside properties, but no lockdown was initiated. OPP have charged a 45-year-old Kenora man with 3 counts of mischief and 4 different firearms infractions. The western part of our region has not seen a single new confirmed case of COVID-19 over the past 2 weeks, but officials with the Northwestern Health Unit say they're still wary of getting back to business as usual. To date, there have been a total of 16 cases reported by the health unit that serves areas like Kenora, Dryden, and Fort Frances, and all of them are considered resolved. Earlier this week, Premier Doug Ford called out several unnamed health units regarding the number of tests being done. So far, the Northwestern Health Unit has conducted 2,600 tests, which is above the provincial average, according to Acting Medical Officer of Health, Dr. Ian Gemmell. He says he's cautiously optimistic that their catchment area may have dodged the first wave of COVID-19, but believes the measures taken to limit the virus should be maintained in sync with the rest of the province.
And I can see why people might say, hey, if we've dodged this bullet, why don't we open things up? But I guess there's a few things I'd say about it. The first is that we're, as I've heard people say, we're not in the 7th inning of this game. We're at the first inning, first batter is still up. There's still the majority of the population, over 99%, is still susceptible.
One new COVID-19 case was reported Thursday by the Thunder Bay District Health Unit. A man in his 40s from the local area is self-isolating after he was exposed through close contact with someone who already had the virus. There are now 77 confirmed cases in the district as of Friday, and only 11 of those are still active. Meanwhile, Federal Health Minister Patty Hajdu says she's been able to keep a fairly close eye on the situation here locally. The Thunder Bay Superior North NP believes the collaboration between the health unit, the hospital, and municipal leaders has helped keep the numbers manageable. And as the attention begins to shift towards reopening the economy, Hajdu says local experts should have more autonomy to make the decisions that are right for their community.
I think I'd leave it to the local leaders, right? Because the local leaders are, first of all, making the decision based on their own outbreaks, but also on their own knowledge of their capacity to deal with outbreaks. So there's 2 parts to that, right? Not just the disease activity, but what's the capacity to deal with a really big surge? And so I think it's both of those considerations. So listen, I will say that we all can play a part as well in keeping the disease activity low. So if you are going to go to a garden center this weekend, for example, make sure that you remember that you still need to socially distance. You need to physically distance in that garden center. You can then do your part as a citizen to keep that risk low and help your community continue to take the next tentative steps towards further services.
Once again, we've reached out to some of the region's leaders to speak about how their communities are responding to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic and to provide a little hope amidst a very stressful and emotional situation.
Hello, everybody. I'm Doug Lawrence, Mayor of Sioux Lookout.
Hi, I'm Greg Wilson, the Mayor of Dryden, City of Dryden.
Hi, my name is Renal Beaulieu, and I'm the Mayor of Greenstone.
Before, as we entered this, it felt like we were watching a movie, but pretty soon we were the main actors in the movie, and people are doing their jobs. I don't think we're going to win any Oscars, but if we keep playing our parts, we will get through this and get through it together. Communication and respect have been key here in Sioux Lookout, and I think across the region. Communication and getting the message out as to how to behave, what to do, what not to do, and respect, that we all respect each other and respect the coronavirus itself. Pretty soon we'll be through this, and let's keep up that good communication and good respect as we enter back into the real world.
And I just wanted to thank you for doing your bit, doing your part in helping keep COVID-19 at a distance by keeping a distance from each other. And I'm really pleased to hear that we've resolved all the cases in northwestern Ontario that are COVID-19 related so far, and that record may hold and it may not, and no one knows what the future holds, but we're on the right track, and I really appreciate your efforts. And I particularly want to thank the healthcare professionals, the first responders, really, the police, firemen, fire people, I should say, who are doing such a great job at keeping us safe in all sorts of ways. So I really appreciate that and want to thank you very much for all your efforts.
I just want to say to all the citizens of Greenstone how proud I am as the mayor of Greenstone to say that this COVID-19 issue that we're dealing with, you have all been fantastic citizens and abiding by the rules of social distancing, washing your hands. But I also want to say at this time, thank you very much to our first responder who are also at the forefront of all this. And I want to say that in Greenstone, we are doing whatever has to be done as a municipality to work with our seniors, protecting our seniors, and making sure that everyone is keeping safe and that we are in a position to hopefully get out of this in a very positive way.
Coming up after the break, we check into the town of Ignace as its new mayor officially takes office. The town of Ignace officially has a new mayor. This comes after the abrupt resignation of Donald Cunningham last month. This past week, Councillor Penny Lucas was sworn in to take the helm of the community and faces several high-priority tasks in addition to the issues brought forward by the pandemic. Adam Riley has details.
I, Penny Lucas of the Council of the Township of Ignace, am committed to discharging my duties conscientiously and to the best of my ability.
And with that oath, Penny Lucas officially became Ignace's mayor. It has been an interesting few weeks in the community of 1300 after the surprise resignation of Donald Cunningham, who was elected to office less than 2 years ago. In addition to Cunningham, several senior staff members have also resigned, including Economic Development Manager Jason Felix, Chief Building Official Charles Tarrant, and Chief Administrative Officer Marshallina Reeder. Lucas says while those positions do need to be filled, she wants to focus on completing the town's 2020 budget before hiring new staff.
Filling those positions is important. It's nice to have somebody at the helm who's keeping track of everything and making sure that everything's getting done. I'd like to thank Tracy Klein in particular for stepping forward and doing a lot of work, filling that position as the current CAO is making her way out. It will get filled eventually. I'd rather take the time to do it right.
Lucas hasn't ruled out bringing in someone for the interim and says she isn't worrying too much as there are several options available to the community.
We will check and see how the process goes. If it's going to take longer than we think, then we may have to do that. But in the meantime, we have lots of support from the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, from a lot of our partners. They're all saying if there's anything that we can do to help, to let them know. So I'm not worried about that at all.
Ignace has been making a lot of economic progress in recent months, including being one of the 2 final communities in the running to host a nuclear waste storage facility. Lucas says she wants to keep that forward momentum going and focus on the future and the opportunities available for the community.
I want Ignace to prosper. I want Ignace to be a good place. It is a good place to live and work. The people are great, and I'm looking forward to bringing in more business. That's particularly important to maintaining the foundation of Ignace.
Adam Riley, TBT News.
Some changes are in store for the Township Council in Dorion after the resignation of Reeve Ed Chambers. First elected as a councillor in 2007, Chambers later took on the role of Reeve in 2014 and ran unopposed in 2018. In February, Chambers took a leave of absence to deal with a personal matter, and last week, Dorion Council accepted his resignation. Deputy Reeve Robert Beattie says there are several options laid out in the Municipal Act as to how to fill the vacancy, and those will be addressed by Council in the near future. The coronavirus pandemic has been tough for certain fractions of the population, and there's been a worry on how those individuals will get essential items and groceries. With that in mind, a teenager from Fort Frances decided to step up to solve the problem. 16-year-old Ray Calder says he noticed a number of individuals on Facebook who, like himself, wanted to help the vulnerable in the region, and as a result, the Rainy River District COVID Delivery was born. Now, Calder and 28 others travel from Fort Frances to Rainy River purchasing items for community members who are unable to. The service works by first contacting them via Facebook or one of the members' cell phones, then tell the shoppers what's needed, where to bring it, and pay with a contactless service like e-transfer, although they do accept cash as well.
We mainly focus on at-risk people or elderly in the community because they're just supposed to stay at home no matter what. So we have many like younger, healthier individuals that just would rather put themselves at risk than other people.
What a wonderful thing when you have your young people step up like that, who care so much about people who maybe are a little bit more vulnerable and the older people. So we have that group working in town.
The service is all volunteer, but Go Local Fort Frances gave the delivery group over $600 in Go Local gift cards to reimburse drivers for gas. The group began in mid-March. They've done over 80 deliveries, and Calder says they will do the service as long as it's needed. When we return, a local organization has seen a huge uptick in sales due to COVID-19, but that also comes with a cost. Haggy TV Bingo is having its season finale this weekend. Ever since the COVID-19 pandemic began, the popularity of the show has skyrocketed, with bingo sheets selling out across the region in a matter of hours. Unfortunately, it's a shortage of those bingo sheets that's forcing Haggy to shut things down at the peak of its popularity. Troy Charles has the story.
Is yes, we've seen an increase to something that is totally beyond our scope.
Gary Cooper is a familiar host of Haggy TV Bingo, which airs every Saturday night at 6 p.m. right here on Thunder Bay Television. Since the COVID-19 pandemic set in and all the bingo halls shut down, Haggy has seen a meteoric rise in sales of their bingo sheets. Cooper explains some of the numbers they've been seeing.
Just to give you an idea, we put out for a $3,000 bingo 4,000 sheets. For a $5,000 bingo, we put 5,000 sheets out for sale. Totally sold out. Never happens prior to the pandemic shutdown.
Now, one might be asking, why would Haggy be ending this season of TV Bingo when they're busier than they've ever been in their 15-year existence? Well, it turns out the pandemic giveth and taketh away.
Like this weekend is our last one. We have looked, we have gone to our supplier, and I would really like the folks to know that we have done everything we can to get more bingo sheets to extend the program, but because of the shutdown, we can't get the bingo sheets. The producer is closed and doesn't know when they will reopen.
Cooper says there would have been no issue extending their license for the upcoming months, but they were unable to find any bingo sheet suppliers to fill their order. This Saturday's season finale will see $5,000 up for grabs. Haggy has also announced they will be matching that amount with a $5,000 donation to the Regional Food Distribution Association. Troy Charles, TBT News.
The annual Canadian Lakehead exhibition has officially been cancelled for 2020. CLE Fair Chair Basil Lishwood says a phone call Wednesday informed them there were no rides available for the fair, which then sealed the deal on the cancellation. Select Shows supplies the amusement rides for the CLE, along with fairs in Dryden, Emo, and Kenora. Owner Jim Mills says their rides are staying put in their Manitoba lot this year. The CLE board, which organizes the annual fair, says they're focusing on next year's event, and Lishwood is hoping it'll be better than ever. He says without any rides this year and the added health precautions that would be required, there were just too many obstacles.
Fair is canceled. Like I said, it's Jim Mills. It speaks for itself here. I mean, we don't have a midway. We don't have a fair. I mean, what else can we salvage? If there's something that we can do, maybe down the road, we'll talk about it. But certainly, the fair is canceled.
The owner of Canuck Amusements is following suit with Select Shows. They supply rides to fairs in Murillo, Geraldton, and many more in Northern Ontario, and will be putting their rides on hold this summer as well. COVID-19 pandemic continues to transform plans for the future, and the 2020 summer research season at the Experimental Lakes area is no exception. While ramping down some planned projects, the ELA says that it's not closing and will make sure that essential monitoring and research still takes place. Troy Charles has details.
While their plans for the summer season are continually evolving, the ELA says their priority remains safeguarding the health of their employees, research partners, and local communities. On that note, they won't be starting any new whole lake research this year. Experiments they had planned, such as trying to discover what microplastics do to fresh water and how antidepressants that get flushed down the toilet affect lake ecosystems, will have to wait. Head research scientist Vince Pallas says while some new projects are put on hold, they will still be getting out in the field for important data collection.
So we're maintaining those core activities. We are restricting the number of new projects that happen at our field station this year. So any new projects are being deferred to next year. But the ongoing projects and our responsibilities to continue that data collection are something that we're going to continue to pursue.
One key measure for the ELA is to uphold their 52-year unbroken data set on everything from the temperature and ice depth to the chemistry and fish populations of the 58 lakes they monitor. Palace explains what it will look like for their field members when they do head out to site during the pandemic.
And what we'll be doing is having a core group of maybe 10 to 12 people. And so one of the first thing that we'll do is to have more distance between the folks that are out there in terms of the accommodations. We'll have far fewer people going into and out of the site than we do on a typical year. And then we have a number of protocols in place in terms of disinfecting vehicles, cleaning before and after when we arrive at the accommodations.
Palace is optimistic that more time spent at home will be beneficial for his team to get a high quantity of data analysis done, but he and his team are eagerly awaiting when they can return to the lakes in full capacity.
Thunder Bay OPP are reporting an arrest in an unusual vehicle theft. It came Wednesday after they were called by a Marathon trucking business that reported a tractor-trailer unit was stolen from its yard. The business was able to track the vehicle's location using its onboard GPS system, and officers were able to intercept as it traveled northbound of Highway 527 towards Armstrong. A 54-year-old Thunder Bay man was arrested and has been charged with possession of property obtained by crime over $5,000. That's all for this week's edition of Northwest Newsweek. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.